Gentleman yields. The chair recognizes Ms. Ross for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I don't know what's going on with this, but thank you to all the witnesses for being here today. This is a highly charged topic at a highly charged time in our country, but it's not new. I want to begin by joining my colleagues in condemning all forms of anti-Semitism on college campuses and all forms of discrimination. That is not what America is about. And like many communities across the country, my region in North Carolina has seen a spike in anti-Semitic incidents since Hamas's horrific attack on Israel on October 7th. But we had seen a spike earlier. That's why Congress is giving money to religious institutions, in particular to synagogues, to be able to protect people. And when I have worshiped with my constituents, there are armed guards in front of synagogues in my district. I've also spoken to Hillel leaders in North Carolina who have told me that their students in particular have reported an alarming number of anti-Semitic incidents in the past month, and these students fear for their safety. All students, whether Jewish or Muslim, progressive or conservative, deserve a safe learning environment at school. College campuses are supposed to be places where people can discuss ideas, including foreign policy, with civility and with the goal of understanding different perspectives and learning from their peers. This sort of environment is only possible when harassment, discrimination, and behavior that seeks to silence, intimidate, and dehumanize is not allowed. Congress's role here should not be to dictate which perspectives held by students are acceptable, but rather to address this problem writ large. It is the duty of the Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights, an office that my colleagues on the right have refused to fully fund, to help you with this mission. At this moment, when tensions on college campuses are high, we must ensure that the Office of Civil Rights has the tools it needs to properly address anti-Semitism and all discrimination on college campuses. My first question is for Professor Nadal and Ms. Burdett. Could you let's go back to the basics. Why is it important that students at universities have freedom to espouse and explore a wide range of ideas?
It's critical that the university continues to uphold the value of free speech. Because what happens on the university campuses is that these are the places where our students learn to be future leaders. How are they going to learn to be future leaders if they don't, if they're not exposed to opposite ideas and different points of view? I think one of the most powerful statements came from the Dean of Students at the University of Chicago when he wrote to the entering class of 2020, and he told them that, yes, you have to be on campus. Campus is certainly a place where you cannot be challenged, you cannot be threatened, but there are not going to be trigger warnings in the classrooms, that you cannot shut down a speaker. Speakers have to be able to come and hear the points of view. And I've heard what the students have said about their campuses. But at the University of Chicago, they have upheld the value of hearing these diverse points of view so that when their graduates go out into the world, they can become leaders and they know what people will be saying on multiple sides of issues. So we have to maintain that value.
Ms. Burdett, do you have anything to add to that?
Of course. I mean, universities have harder jobs than any of us in this room because they have to teach people how to think, not tell them what to think. And we haven't really mastered that. They are chartered. Their mission is to create a platform that students, including some of the young people in this hearing room and Jewish students, can fill with their ideas and their perspectives and their voices. And that's how we learn. And I don't think for 1 minute there's a university that doesn't know what's right and wrong when it comes to was Hamas justified in that massacre. But they have a very hard job, and they agreed in 1967, the University of Chicago issued the Kelvin Principles, which is still a very influential document. And they protected the right of young people to say, I don't want to die in Vietnam, I'm scared. And it wasn't always the predominant view. And so their jobs are hard. We sit around and tell people what to think all the time. It's really harder to teach them how to come to their own conclusions. And I just have utmost respect for the challenge they're facing. We should be helping them do better, not walking away and pulling our marbles and our funding and our kids away. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Gentlewoman yields. And I will take 5 minutes for questioning now. First of all, I will deign to respond in regards to the gentleman from California in regards to anti-Semitic tropes, in particular in regards to one gentleman named Tom Steyer. That had nothing to do with anti-Semitism. He was a presidential candidate. He was taking his enormous wealth and putting it into a presidential campaign. And in America, it is fair game to be able to criticize someone when they've chosen to enter the field of politics. And the gentleman, Mr. Steyer, threw in huge dollars. He was described by the gentleman from California as a philanthropist. He was a presidential candidate who has thrown in hundreds of millions of dollars to political campaigns here in America. That is fair game. Using the cudgel of racism to stop free speech is also wrong. Mr. Marcus, if you could do it real briefly. So many of us, I have 3 children, much the same age as them. Where's this intolerance coming from? Where is this intolerance that really is a bit foreign for someone who went to college, a few decades ago? And not just the anti-Semitism. Where's the intolerance coming from?
Mr. Chairman, this has been a long time coming, and the intolerance towards other groups is not unrelated to the intolerance towards Jews. We have, for too long, seen political polarization throughout our country with extreme aspects on the college campus. There are extremists on the left, there are extremists on the right, but on the college campus, the extremists on the left have considerably more influence, louder voices, and the greater ability to make their views heard. Oftentimes, that means not just presenting their own opinions, but trying to silence others.
Thank you for that. So I turn to Ms. Jordan. Why do administrators fear the left?
I would say that they fear the left because they don't want to hurt their feelings. I know that they probably are trying their best to, be equal, be fair, but it honestly feels like they are favoring those students. I know there are a lot of different departments within a Big Ten university, and so some of those, we have a lot of diversity, equity, inclusion spaces. So a lot of those that are, directly funded, directly associated with the university, those are especially the leaders in initiating the activities that I feel like, coddle left-leaning students and empower them to attack us.
Because Mr. Ogerzak, isn't it true that they don't fear you on the right on campus, that you're going to tear things down, that you're going to go out and do a nasty demonstration to deny somebody from coming into the campus who comes from the left point of view to speak? I mean, I'm assuming the administrators don't fear you guys.
I would certainly hope that they would never expect us to commit any acts of violence against opposing speakers.
So we heard earlier in testimony, the quote was used, and one of the panelists, we have failed them. By the time it gets to the Office of Civil Rights, we have failed them. So, Mr. Marcus, why would we put more federal dollars into something like this? I think this is part of what you're hearing from some of us up here, is we are saying, is there really a federal role? Should we be pumping more federal dollars in? In fact, as we put more federal dollars in and we hear about more intolerance, less tolerance for free speech, are we going in the wrong direction by saying, federal government, you should try to do more? Because maybe the federal government is being counterproductive.
Mr. Chairman, my experience with the Office for Civil Rights is that it has had lean years and it has had fat years. In either case, the head of that agency has been able to do what the head feels needs to be done. That is to say, there may be in a particular year 15 or 17 or 19,000 cases, but the number of anti-Semitism cases will never be 1% and will seldom be 0.1%. So it is my sense that while there may be political reasons and a host of policy reasons to support either increases or decreases of the budget for that agency, and the Brandeis Center is a nonpartisan group, we don't support others, that the Office for Civil Rights can focus the resources it needs on fighting the problems that needed to be fought, as long as it has the political will and regardless of the budget in a particular year.
I want to get one more question in here for Ms. Silberstein. By the way, you were engaged with one of the most incisive questioners we have up here in Mr. McClintock. It is a terrific lesson many of us have learned. And why not tell parents just take your dollars elsewhere? If Cornell is going to act the way they do, Madison, University of Madison refuses to condemn pro-Hamas demonstrators chanting glory to the murders, why not just tell parents to take your dollars elsewhere?
I mean, of course, private individuals are entitled to do what they wish with their money. With regard to sending students to these schools, I've been faced with that question numerous times, and I've had to grapple with it myself about why I would put myself in such a situation that could potentially lead to my own harm. And I have gone to a Jewish day school my entire life, and coming to Cornell, I was hoping to encounter a variety of diverse perspectives from whom I'd be able to learn. And upon coming here, I've realized that, I've been hit with a lot of hatred and virulent anti-Semitism, and it's something that makes me feel the need and the right to be there more, to combat it, and to continue to fight against it, and to not let it win.
I want to thank all the witnesses for being here today. Thank you very much.
May I have a minute to clarify my words that were used? Is that possible within the rules?
Sure, the chair will give you let's take a minute. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. So I'm the one who said we failed them. And fighting hate and preventing hate is a whole of society job. We all have a job to do. And if all we do is investigate a crime after someone's dead because of their identity, I'm just saying we can interrupt it earlier. I hope we won't throw up our hands about what the United States of America and its government can do to help encourage our society to be more tolerant and moral. So let's please not throw up our hands. Interventions work. And when the FBI counts hate crimes, that is a deterrent. When a school has a policy against hate, all they have to do is post it online. There are less hate crimes. So let's just make the FBI count hate crimes. It's optional right now. Why?
So, Ms. Burdett, we can have more of a discussion on this offline. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you for the time.
I yield and would like to recognize the gentle lady from Georgia for 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And as a woman of color who's lost her son to murder, the very kinds of bigotry and discrimination and hatred that we're talking about today, I wake up every single morning, and when I see all of the elevated instances of anti-Semitism and bigotry and hatred and just racial division, I ask God every single day, are we losing our humanity? And with that said, first I'd like to thank the committee for holding this critical hearing to highlight the need to fund the Office of Civil Rights at the Department of Education and the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion offices across our schools as we address these incidents of hate speech across our college campuses. Yes, we have a right to speak our minds. We have a right to share our views and be ourselves, but free speech is an invaluable right that is granted to us by the First Amendment, and we must use it to nurture our diverse and ever-changing country. However, in a nation made up of many cultures and backgrounds, hate has no place, especially at our schools, where the minds of our young people are really being nurtured. College campuses are places where people expand their knowledge, they gain new perspectives, and pursue future success. And the recent occurrences on campuses where students have used their freedom of speech to harm and intimidate their classmates are despicable and should prove our absolute need to incorporate diversity, equity, and inclusion education throughout all of our school systems. Not only would DEI offices and education reducing the likelihood of these events happening in the future by bringing awareness and knowledge to students who otherwise they may not learn about the richness of other cultures until well into their adulthood. But it will also educate and support the diverse interests of our children. And I truly believe this at heart because I'm a mother to my core. And I mean this with every fiber of my being. We are losing our way. In addition to DEI offices, we need to fund the Office of Civil Rights to equip students and faculty experiencing intimidation, threats of violence, and other harmful acts with the tools necessary to protect them. Without these support resources, students will continue to live in fear of harm while they know that they have little or no support in the event that they experience such personal and hate-filled instances. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for having this hearing today. Let's work to protect our students and affirm the value of all cultures by funding the Office of Civil Rights at the Department of Education and supporting diversity, equity, and inclusion programs on campuses all across our country. Ms. Burdett and Dr. Nadel, throughout your professional careers, have either of you found that individuals with a better understanding and background of cultures dissimilar to theirs tend to be more understanding and accepting when speaking to or about someone who's from a different culture?
You know, one of my favorite things about the president's strategy against anti-Semitism is that it talks about the need to celebrate Jewish heritage. And of course, understanding matters. And that is where communities can actually stop problems before they happen with understanding. And you know, you mentioned DEI. There are people out there who want to tell Jewish people that DEI, those three letters, are our enemy because it doesn't care about Jews. I work with DEI professionals all the time. And sometimes they weren't addressing anti-Semitism in the past. And it's a process to explain it, to integrate Jews into DEI work. But everything I hear these last 4 weeks tells me Jews want to be welcome and included. And that's what the I stands for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Nadel.
What I would add to that is that it is imperative to understand and learn about the diversity of cultures in American life. And so to respond to one of the things Ms. Burdett said, we have had proclaimed in the United States May as Jewish American Heritage Month at least since one of the Bush administrations, I forget which one, maybe at least since 2004. And that this is a way in which Americans can learn a great deal about Jewish Americans, but we also have an array of specific months dedicated to learning about the different cultures of the United States, and so we need to support those efforts.
Thank you, and I yield.